Hello there, welcome to my channel. My name is Doug and I'm back with another Pen Resurrection Sunday video. Today's dead fountain pen on the slab ready for resurrection is this 1946, I think, 46, yep, Parker Vacumatic in golden pearl, and it is a third generation of the Vacumatics. If you've been following Pen Resurrection Sunday, you know that I love these stacked celluloid fountain pens from the 1940s, 30s, and 40s from Parker. They're just built so well. This one is in sad shape, but for me, this is in great shape because this is the kind of pen I'm looking for all the time. Something that has all kinds of tarnish on it, maybe some bite marks here and there, and so people think they're not worth very much. Well, they're not worth very much when they don't write, and the nib is all kind of dark and tarnished. But they polish up and come back to life miraculously. It's quite a satisfying resurrection to do these Parker Vacumatics. Parker made Vacumatics in three kind of styles, three generations, pen restorers call them. First generation was a lockdown filler. The second generation was a speedline filler. And the third generation, which happened at the beginning of the war, turned the Vacumatic pump, instead of being an aluminum and brass piece, is now a celluloid plastic piece. Parker Vacumatics had many different colorways and finishes, but for me, the most precious are the stacked celluloid, pearlescent celluloid finishes. These stacked celluloid pens came in 5 different colors, 6 if you count the black one. There was this gold, silver, azure blue, emerald green, and burgundy. Burgundy was discontinued just as they transitioned to the third generation, so I doubt you'll ever see, I've never seen, a third generation burgundy. They are lockdown fillers or speedline fillers. And I've got a black one here as well, so it looks just black, but if you look through, you'll see that it is translucent as well. So it's not pearlescent, so it doesn't belong in the same kind of pearl category, but it was translucent so you can see your ink levels through it. This is a junior model, third generation, and this golden one is a major model with the cap band with the deco style chevrons all around it. And the junior on the third generation had 2 cap bands. And the clip on the junior, there's no blue diamond on the top of the clip. It is the split arrow like this one, but this one has a blue diamond, or once had a blue diamond, I should say. So let's take a look at this pen and see what it needs to come back into the land of the writing. Now here we go, starting with the top cap. The top finial looks like it's in good shape, but the clip is spinning around, and the clip is in sad shape. You can see it has a wow in it right there, bit of a bend, and it is really darkly tarnished. There's that blue diamond that's supposed to be in there. Of course, we'll polish this up and put a blue diamond back with some blue enamel. This clip is supposed to be lined up with the cap band. There's a blank spot. There's chevrons all through here, these angled strokes in this Art Deco band. But right there, there's a small panel, and that's where you could engrave your initials. So that's where the clip needs to line up. Right there. The cap shows there's a few gouges and scratches here and there, as you can see, and we'll polish all that out. And the barrel is very nicely translucent. There's not a lot of ink buildup in there, but there's signs of a desiccated diaphragm right there inside the barrel. And let's look at the imprint. It says GOS Parker, Parker Vacumatic, made in USA, and there is, it looks like a single dot 6. So 6 and a single dot, which means it's the third quarter of 1946. And there's the blind cap. There's some gouge marks, teeth marks, and there's a nice big gouge right there. We'll have to see whether we can get that out. That's very deep. The blind cap comes off, and the pump is springy, but there's no resistance, so that diaphragm has become detached and desiccated inside the barrel. Let's take off the cap. This section looks to be in really good shape. No chips, cracks that I can see. And there is the nib, Parker USA, and it has a date code visible, and the date code on that is 2 dots and a 6. So that's the second quarter of 1946. 3 dots would be the first quarter, 2 dots the second, 1 dot the third, and no dots is the fourth. And the nib looks very tarnished with old ink and stuff. The ebonite feed looks good, lots of old ink. And the nib itself looks very good. There's a nice separation between the tines. I don't see any wows or bends or knocks on this nib. It might need some adjustment. It looks like it might have a little bit of baby's bottom on it. It might need some little bit of alignment. So first things first, we need to put this in the ultrasonic bath of pen flush, which is 9 parts distilled water and 1 part ammonia. And we'll let it soak for a bit to get out any old ink, and then we'll see about trying to get that section off so we can knock that feed and nib out of there to polish those up. It might take a little bit of heat. This is screwed into the barrel and generally does not require any shellac to hold it in place. Some people do restore these pens and put shellac on there. I don't agree with that. Parker never applied any adhesive to these sections. And then we'll see whether we can get that Vacumatic pump out of there. That's the key to restoring these pens. You have to be able to get that pump out. Sometimes it takes a lot of effort, sometimes none at all. So into the bath you go. So here we are out of the bath, and a lot of reddish brown ink came out of it. So someone was very matchy-matchy with their Golden Pearl Vacumatic. I've tried taking the section out with some gripper material, and it's frozen in there solid. So let's give it a little bit of heat, and then we'll try to extract that section. Put on my finger mitts. Yeah, that loosened it up. There's no glue there. It's just old ink. There we go. Get off the old ink here. There's our breather tube. That should come right out. There it is. It's in that yellowish celluloid. It's the same material that you see on the pump rod. And there's our section, nib and feed. So I'm going to soak this a little bit too. That'll help in being able to knock that feed out of there. We'll put the breather tube in there as well for a few minutes. And here's the breather tube all cleaned up. A little bit of ink in there, but you can see that yellow celluloid. Put these small pieces in a little container here so we don't lose them. So I've done that before. And here's the section. Put it through the bath again, and it's looking even better all the time. A lot more ink came out. We'll put it in the block here, and we'll try to knock out that feed and nib. It's not wanting to budge. It moved a little bit. Try it one more time. Don't want to put too much force in it. It might break the section. Oh, there it moved. There we go. Probably a lot more ink inside there. Yep. Black ink this time. It's funny, there was reddish ink in the cap, so that'll all go back in the bath too. And let's take a look at the feed. There we go. That's the way it looks before it's polished. And let's take a look at the nib. Here it is with the 2 dots and the 6, 1946. And we'll see what it looks like when it's all polished up on this side over here. So there's the nib all polished up and beautiful, front and back. And the nib tines look to be in excellent shape. And here is the feed, all shined up and polished. Beautiful, just like brand new. And here's the section. I polished it up. Very, very shiny, no marks at all. Very clean. So we'll put these parts back into the container for safekeeping. And we'll turn our attention to the cap with the floppy clip. Now, I've left this in the bath ultrasonic for quite a while, because while that clip spins around, the jewel does not. So I add a little bit of heat to it with my heat gun, put a pencil up under the cap, and press down with some rubber matting to try to get that jewel out. There were several different types of jewels. And there it is coming. Several different types of jewels. Some had, the early ones had a brass thread around here, and that's what clamped the clip to the cap. Later ones, like in version 3, generation 3 here, the jewels were just plastic, and they went down inside the nut, the brass nut, which has a slot thread on it. So we get a slot screwdriver and unscrew that brass nut. There we go. And there, the clip comes off. Get that brass nut out. There's the brass nut. There's our clip. We'll put it over here, all dull and bent and I'll polish it up. I think maybe I'll try to straighten it first. It's going to take a little bit of careful hammering to get that slight wow out of there, and we'll see how successful I am. And now the cap is free to be able to polish it up with some micro mesh, maybe some sandpaper here as well, because there are some gouges in here, so I might go at it with some 400 grit and then go through the micro mesh from 1500 grit to 12,000 and finish off with some polishing compound on my buffer wheel. So let's put the cap up here and see what it looks like before, and then we'll see it down here when it's polished up. And now we need to get after that Vacumatic pump. First I'm going to take my inspection camera and go down inside that barrel and see what remains of the diaphragm and the state of the top of that Vacumatic pump. There's an ebonite receptacle there. So now let's try to get that vac pump out with my vac extractor from the Inky Nib. Take out the collet, tighten it around the pump, tighten the tool down, and see whether it'll budge without any heat. Nope. So add a little bit of heat. And I think I got it. Yeah. There we go. So I'm going to put it back on a couple of threads there to remove the tool. There we go. So now we have to push the rest of the unit out from the top. So I get the same rod that I used to knock out the feed, and we're going to push down on the top of the pump. With my inspection camera, I saw that there was sort of a bunched up diaphragm in there. It didn't look desiccated, it looked rubbery, but it was all bound up into a ball. There, and push that out. There, that's what I saw. All the remnants of that, and so it is not rubbery at all. It's crystallized, and a little bit's rubbery. So we just peel that off, give it a cut. There we go. It should peel right off. Whoa, that's in good shape. Yeah, this has been restored. So I can tell that that's a fairly recent pellet retainer right there. And this whole mechanism looks like it's in really, really good shape. Now I have to drill that pellet out of there so I can put the new diaphragm in. And we'll take the barrel, look at its transparency now. Not too bad. And look down inside there and see there's remnants of old diaphragm in there on the walls. So we'll polish that out with some test tube cleaning brushes, and then we'll re-diaphragm this pump. So now I've got my eyes on for this, my magnifier lenses, because I'm going to drill out that small pellet that's right there with my tiny drill bit. I have to do it very carefully so we don't damage the pellet retainer. There, sort of dug a hole in it, and now I can get out my dental tool and sort of pick the remains out of it. There it is. I hooked the dental tool into the hole I drilled, and I can pull that ball right out of there. There it is. Just digging out the remains. There we go. And the rest of it looks in good shape. There's still some ink on those very, very fine threads of the pump. So I'll soak this a bit, get it nice and clean, and then we'll put a new diaphragm on this and install it back in the pen. So I cleaned up the pump. It's spick and span right now, to quote an old product title. And I took my dental tool and scraped all of those threads. They're very, very fine threads. It needs no glue. I'm going to put a little grease on that, but I wanted to make sure there was no debris remaining. And I polished the barrel so that it is absolutely clean, front and back. You can see how nice and clean that is. That's just water. I was wrong. That was a piece of diaphragm stuck to the barrel that I missed. There it is. Should be clear now. Yep, looks pretty good. So now we have a standard size diaphragm, and we're going to push it into the pellet retainer with my Inky Nib pellet pusher tool, and it should push in with a little bit of a click. There we go, click. And we're going to put some talc on that diaphragm so it slides back on itself very nicely. And the pellet pusher goes all the way in, and on the pellet pusher there's a groove right there that marks where you cut to make it the right length. So I just find it with my thumbnail. The thumbnail's for the guitar, but I use it for this too. Just make a mark right there, and just snip it off right at that mark. I'm going to check it for length. It looks just about right. There we go. So now we peel this latex back on itself, so it makes a little cuff, and this can take a long time, it can take a short time. It all depends on how it wants to feel today. I've had some success with just when it gets to this point it doesn't want to go anymore, just pushing it all the way, even though it's doubled up. I push it down so that it's on that aluminum bit right there of the pump, and then hold on to that bit and use the pump to push the doubled back part out. You need 3 hands for this almost. There we go. It's starting to move. Yeah, there we go. Latex likes to stick to itself. So that's what it should look like inside. It's like the diaphragm in your body. When your diaphragm moves up and down, it pulls air in and pushes air out, expanding your lungs. So this does the same thing inside the barrel of the Vacumatic. So now what we need to do is just put a little bit of silicone oil just around the tip of that diaphragm so it'll slide past the barrel and won't get kinked up inside. And I like to twist it a little bit like this. You can feel it go past that little shelf. There we go. It's the bevel on this aluminum part that presses up against the inside of the barrel that holds everything together and makes a pneumatic seal. I'm going to start a thread. I'm going to add some silicone oil to those threads right there, just to make it go into the barrel smoothly. Then we can get out our tool and tighten down the collet, and then I'm just going to run it back and forth like this to get that oil moving so that it doesn't feel sticky. There we go. We don't want to put any undue pressure on this celluloid. If it cracks, we're done. There's no way to fix that on this end of the pump. There, we'll give it just hand tight, and there we go. That should be working, and it might not be working. Feels like it's sticking in there. No, there, now it's moving. I'm going to use my inspection camera again just to check to make sure that's working inside the pump, and we'll pump the rod up and down a few times and see if it's working. So that pump appears to be working properly. So now I can put the blind cap on and polish up that barrel. There are several scratches on it, mostly on the blind cap. Right there, some gouges and teeth marks, and especially that gouge right at the very, very end, right there. So we'll put it up here and show what it looks like before we polish it, and I'll show what it looks like down below after it's been polished. But before I do any polishing at all, I'm going to put the nib, feed, breather tube, and section together, put it back in the pen, and do a dip test on that nib to make sure it's working properly. So let's get our polished up nib together, and it fits right there, the back of the tip. Grip it top and bottom and see whether there's a sweet spot in here, and it will go into the section. Yeah, it's not going into the section so good. So I'm going to rough up the end of this ebonite feed with some 400 grit sandpaper to make it lubricate a little bit better. And then I might even apply some heat to the section to make it expand a little bit. Roughing up that feed with some ebonite dust really helps get some of that dust inside the section as well. And I'm just going to heat the section a little bit to make it a little bit softer. Grab our nib, put it on the feed again, grab it top and bottom, needs a little bit more heat. Well, I'm going to need a little bit more leverage, so I'm going to screw this section. Add a little bit of silicone oil here. There we go. There. That works a lot better. And it's not working. You see, the nib didn't go down as far as the feed did. So we'll try take 2. Well, I'm going to have a take 3. It looks pretty good in terms of depth and everything, but the nib and the feed are misaligned, and it's misaligning the tines as well. So I'm going to knock it out again. Got it. Apparently 5 times is the charm. So it's perfectly aligned now. The feed and the nib are aligned, and when you align the feed and the nib properly, it doesn't push those tines out of alignment either. So let's take the section back off again. We don't need the breather tube for the dip test, but I'm going to put it in anyway, just to make sure we don't lose it anywhere. And we can get out some writing paper and give that nib a test. And we get out our Watermans and dip the nib a little bit, replace the cap for safety. And this is a 1946 Parker Vacumatic Golden Pearl, and it has a 14 karat gold. And I'm going to call this a fine nib. And we'll check the wetness. It's very wet indeed. And there's a good amount of feedback, not scratch at all. And we have some really nice line variation. It's not a flex nib, but a nice vintage bounce. Yeah, there's a nice writer. That nib is very, very nice indeed. So I'm going to polish out a little bit of that feedback. I do like to be able to feel the page a little bit, but that needs to be just a tad smoother. And then it will be polish time. So I've straightened the clip as best I can. It's straight this way, and I've got a slight curve on it so it fits the cap in the right position correctly. It still has a little bit of a wow in it that I can probably bend out horizontally, just using angled needle nose pliers with no grooves on them. There, that's a little bit straighter. Looking a lot better than it did anyway. So now we'll polish it up now that it's straight. Okay, this is one of the reasons why I love Parker Vacumatics. From 1933 through 1948 and Parker 51s from 1939 through the 1950s. They were just made of such incredibly resilient, beautiful quality materials. And look at this, 1946. That's almost 80 years, and it looked black and twisted, and it came up beautifully. Look at that. I'm just amazed with the quality of these materials. Now I'll have to replace that blue diamond enamel, but I'll do that towards the end. And we'll put that right there. And I think our pen is coming together nicely. Now let's see what we can do with the cap and the barrel. And there is our barrel all polished up, looking gorgeous. There are only a couple of little nicks and things that I needed my 400 grit on, but then I went through all the micro mesh and then onto my polishing wheel. I masked off the cap band with some masking tape until I got to about 4,000 grit, and then took the masking tape off and polished up the gold with the finer grades of micro mesh, and then of course on the polishing wheel. Let's put it into the barrel, which hasn't been polished yet, and you can see the difference a polish makes. So let's do the barrel next. We'll put it up here, give it a pass, and then show it down here, especially that nick right there. Want to see that, what it looks like when I finished with it. And there we have the barrel all polished up. Look at that, gorgeous. I love this golden pearl, and named properly. And what about that chip on the end, that gouge? Well, it's completely gone. That blind cap looks perfect now. Put the pen back together again here and do a beauty pass. This is very satisfying, folks, when you see an old, dirty, scratched up, tarnished pen come back to life like this. Now all we have to do is put the parts back together again and fill it up, and we'll test its capacity. So here are our various parts. We can put the breather tube back in nice and tight. Add more silicone oil to those threads just to guard against leaks. Run that back and forth a few times, and then we can reassemble the cap and the clip. Now that clip belongs right where you can engrave your initials, where there are no chevrons right there. So it's going to point to the center of that, which is just about there. Line it up with my eye, and then I've cleaned up the brass nut as well. Just sat it in the bath for a bit. And we get our slot screwdriver, and we can drive that nut home. And just before I get it tight, just hold it right where I want it and tighten it down. Where it was not tight before, it is now tight. Now we just screw the top plastic jewel finial on. Use a little bit of rubber matting, my pencil up inside just to give it some pressure. Tighten it down hand tight. And then I'm going to polish that jewel as well. Now that I've got it in, I will give it a polish. And there we go. There's just a couple of seconds on the buffing tool. Now we just need to fill this pen up, check its capacity. And here we are with the scale. Let's put the pen on the scale. We get 10.37, which is pretty typical for this size pen. Press tear, get out our Watermans again, and we're going to give it several pumps. Drop the nib into the ink up to the section and push down and release. We hear bubbles. This is good news. If you want to see how a Vacumatic works, click right up there, and there is a video I made using a Parker 51 demonstrator that shows how the Vacumatic pump siphons up ink using the pump as a diaphragm until the barrel is full. I don't feel any more bubbles, and that pen should be full. Now, I can't remember whether I weighed it with the blind cap on or not. We'll find out. Yep, I weighed it with the blind cap on. 1.5 milliliters of ink, exactly correct. It's just about what these major size Parker Vacumatics 3rd generation take. It's a lot of ink for a small pen. Put the blind cap back on, wipe down the nib, and we're ready to write. So just before we start with the writing sample, I want to polish out some of the feedback on this nib. So I've got some 8000 grit micro mesh here. I'm just going to drop a little bit of water on there. Ink works too. And I'm going to give it my 8 strokes in all points of the compass. 8 strokes this way, 8 strokes circular that way, 8 figure 8s horizontally, and 8 figure 8s vertically. I'm going to repeat that with the 12,000 grit. Now I'm just going to push some ink through the feed just to get the ink flowing again. And let's try it again. 1946 Parker Vacumatic Golden Pearl 14K fine bouncy nib. Let's post the pen. Yeah, this is a beautiful nib. Beautiful pen. Perfectly restored, if I do say so myself. I'll do that blue diamond in the clip first, and then I'll come back with my thoughts about this resurrection. So I put a dot of testers, 1111, GI dark blue, which matches the original Parker blue enamel for the blue diamond. I put a dot of that enamel paint inside the diamond, and once it's dried for, I don't know, 24 hours or so, I'll take an X-Acto blade and scratch off the excess that goes around the outside, and it will be perfect. And I'll post a photo right here for you to see the results. So, what are my thoughts about this resurrection? Well, they don't get better than this, folks. This resurrection was perfect for me. Perfect dead pen, some deep gouges and bite marks to fix, a perfect vintage bouncy 14 karat gold nib, a bent clip to repair, and it's a Parker Vacumatic. So what is a perfect dead pen? Well, first, it doesn't write, and or the filling system needs repair. Then it's old, dingy, tarnished, and scratched or bitten. That puts the pen into the buyer's market for pen repairers and a candidate for resurrection for me. It's broken and I can fix it. But the nib has to be gold. A gold nib, gold clip, or gold cap band can look almost black from years of tarnish and neglect. But it only takes a few minutes in pen flush and on a buffer wheel for the original luster to be restored. And this is one of the most satisfying parts of a pen restoration for me. And the best part of this one is that this one is a Parker Vacumatic. If you watched my channel at all, you'll know that I love the Parker Vacumatic model from 1933 through 1948. They are classically beautiful to start. They were made when Parker was at the pinnacle of quality in manufacturing fountain pen. The materials are solid, the celluloid is thick and mesmerizingly gorgeous, and the gold-filled hardware is deep and resilient. And the filling system was, in my opinion, the best Parker ever made and ahead of its time. The Vacumatic used a very cool ink filling system designed by Arthur O. Dahlberg and patented by Parker in 1933 that mimics how humans breathe. With the latex diaphragm inside the barrel, the Vacumatic draws up ink through a straw-like breather tube, which fills the barrel instead of an ink sac. Dahlberg used the barrel as the ink chamber, giving the Vacumatic one of the largest ink capacities for a pen of this size ever made. That's 1.5 milliliters of ink. In 1932, designer Joseph Platt took Dahlberg's mechanics and created arguably one of the most beautiful fountain pens ever designed, with the Art Deco styling of the clip, the translucent, pearlescent, and stacked celluloid of the cap and the barrel, which was developed for Parker by DuPont. The Vacumatic filler was ahead of its time. It was hampered, however, by the materials of the time. If made with today's modern plastics and silicones, the Vacumatic would never wear out, only needing routine maintenance, typical of a piston filler or a vac filler. What is great for Parker Vacumatic lovers like me is that Parker made thousands of these for 15 years in the United States, from 1933 through 1948 and until 1953 in Canada and England. So they're out there and very collectible. You can bet that your intrepid pen resurrector will be adding more to the ranks of the living and writing in the future. So yes, I do a lot of Parker Vacumatic resurrections. Call it an addiction. And no, this pen is not for sale. This one is staying here in Calgary. And there you have it. If you like this video, please like and free subscribe, and don't forget to ring that bell to get instant notifications whenever a new video is posted. And you can join as a member of my channel for only 99 cents a month, and I guarantee I'll answer your comments in the comment section, and you'll get cool emojis, badges, sneak peek unboxing videos, as well as instant access to my videos the moment I post them. And that just leaves it for me to say thank you. Watching. And that's all she wrote.
I made this.